Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, we have a very special guest for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me. This is Evan, and I am calling from California.
Okay, and can we go ahead and dig into your past leading up into your present, what you would like to talk about, and I'll just go from there.
Absolutely. Let's just say the journey started out, I would say, creating digital marketing campaigns, email campaigns for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. For example, Bank of America, REI, Oracle. So essentially helping them run email outreach way back in the day. From there, kind of started my own company.
Can
Uh,
you tell me, before you go any further, can you tell me about what it takes to do a marketing campaign versus then versus now, and then you can continue?
Definitely. Well, first of all, back in the day, before it was called, email marketing or digital marketing, it was really called spam more than anything else. Um, it's kind of where the term came from. But really, it was more of a manual kind of segmentation of lists. For example, if REI was doing a campaign and they wanted to sell certain items to men who ran versus women who ran, we would need to segment those campaigns because they would be selling different items to those different individuals. For example, women's clothes versus men's clothes. And so we would have to do that kind of more manually through SQL strings, etc. Whereas now there's just so many services that will just automatically do things like that for you with the click of a button. So
Okay. And what happened after you did your marketing campaign with all those companies, which is very impressive.
it was fun. I think the main thing is I learned a lot. You learn a lot about how these companies speak to their customers, and all of the different customers that they have need to be they need to be delivered a different type of message, and yet trying to achieve the same result, which is typically making a sale. But it's really all kinds of different messaging geared towards different types of personas, all trying to kind of drive that same conversion at the end of the day.
So, what kind of product would you sell for someone that is in need of, uh, let's say, makeup? Let's just say makeup, and like in the demographics, like they may need a certain type of makeup, not nothing cheap. How would you categorize that, and how would you get the audience or the consumer to come to you or come get the product?
Well, typically we work on LinkedIn mostly, so we don't
Mhm.
necessarily deal with a product like that, but the game is the same. So it starts with an awareness engine, and whatever that can be. So we really try to drive awareness every single which way we can possibly, because at the end of the day, that's what's gonna matter. How many people are seeing your brand, and of course, how many relevant people are seeing your brand, right? So it starts there. And then if you can solve this group of people and solve and make sure that they're seeing your brand, then it comes down to the actual messaging. Now that they're seeing your brand, how do they feel about it? And what actions are you able to drive them to take once they see your brand? Right. So are you able to get them to go to your landing page and make a purchase? Do they feel that they trust the brand? Et cetera, et cetera, right? So kind of building that entire um, I would say presence and journey.
How does LinkedIn help people, and how has your journey with LinkedIn helped people elevate their niche?
LinkedIn has become quite the important tool today. It's really replaced a lot of things. It's really replaced our business cards. It's really replaced our resumes. It's how we connect with other people at every conference or event. We need to basically use it to apply to get into events. It's essentially everything we've ever done post high school, all laid out there digitally for the world to see. And so, because of its importance, um, many brands find that it's a very useful channel for them to be able to grow on. And it's definitely a good place to connect with, for example, investors on, or key people in technology, for example, because this is kind of where all of those types of eyeballs are, right? Um, and so that's what we help people do. We essentially take LinkedIn as a platform, and we help brands turn it into their number one go-to-market channel.
If you were to take a brand and try to market it like for technology purposes, like or try to research this technology, um, you would have to have the technology research before you market the brand, or can you market the brand before you have the prototype?
If you're looking for the best results, it's always best to go deep because every brand has a different message. It has a different kind of reason for being, has a different value proposition. So, understanding a brand deeply, that's really the difference maker. Especially today when we talk about content, there's this term called AI slop, and that just means that there's a lot of kind of AI generated content out there that's kind of flooded everything because it's so easy to create, right? So, what's valuable and what is getting engagement, as should be, is kind of that deeper content, kind of like, where that human really understands their industry, really understands the nuances of what their clients are going through, and can really tell that story in a way that connects with their audience, and be able to have the right tools or solutions to help them along the journey.
After you consulted in marketing with the various companies, where did you pick off? Like, how did you maneuver after that? Or are you still with those companies, or did you branch off? How did that work?
No, so I was doing the marketing for those companies for a while. And after that, I started my own dessert brand, dessert shop, in a sleepy town called Walnut Creek, right here in California. And it took a little bit, but from that store, we were able to grow that into almost 100 locations over the next 4 years. I'm sorry, in 4 countries over the next 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. That is excellent. Like that is an achievement that not many people get to achieve. Four countries in the decade, like that's amazing. Did you ever get like an award, or did you ever celebrate your success?
We did win some awards, not myself personally, but the brand, some of the things that we did, the artwork, etc. Um, but no, I'm sure we celebrated along the way. I think, every time we open a store or something somewhere in the world, it was an excuse for a celebration. So, yeah, I think celebration is awesome. It is really good. That positive reinforcement, that energy, the team feels it, everyone feels it. So yeah, we definitely did some celebrating along the way.
What advice would you have for an entrepreneur that wanna open up a bakery, or just want to open up their own business? And how did you take your money and literally, or your capital, or whatever you had, and flip it? Did you have good credit? Did you build your credit? Was it always good? And if it was always good, could you give advice on how to make, like, how to build your credit? Like, what do you have to give my audience?
So first of all, I think this is very important. Before you start a business or when thinking about a business to start, um, I think it's very important to start with a competitive edge. What that means is, if you're going to go start a bakery, don't just start a bakery because you want to be a bakery owner or just because you want to have a business. You're going to start that bakery business because you have zero rent on this particular space for 6 months, or because you have this amazing recipe that no one else can recreate that everyone is going to go bonkers for. But you're going to have some secret weapon in your pocket before you decide to start that business. Something that's going to give you that competitive edge against the 150 other people that are starting that exact same business on that exact same day. So that's first and foremost. And then I think as far as like capital and how all that came about, I think that really comes to kind of trust. So what I was able to do was I was able to leverage a few of the relationships around me, and able to get some of these people to build trust in me. I had no credit at the time myself. I wasn't the guy that was going to go and get the loan at the bank or whatever. No way. But what I was able to do was show a few people along the way that I was good at some things. Um, and so luckily, they trusted me, and put their money where their mouth was. And I was able to scrape a little bit of money together. And at the time, it was about $40,000. And I started the very first store, scraped everything together, wrote everything, drew everything by hand, and just kind of like cranked it out and made it happen.
Well done. Like $40,000, that's a lot of money. Like, however, you invested wisely. You invested wisely into, like, and then you ended up with four restaurants around the world. So, have you, like, do you give speeches? Do you, like, how do you give back to the world now that you've achieved? And even though you achieved, do you feel like you've reached self-actualization?
I'm probably not doing enough in the giving back portion now that you mention it. Definitely, I think would need to step that up a little bit. Um, and no, definitely, life is a journey, and I'm still on that journey. I mean, I've definitely been able to do some cool things. And I'm definitely working with, some really interesting, groups of people. But there's so much more to learn, and I'm learning stuff every day. So, um, you know, we're still moving, we're still going. Every day is a new day, so that's how it is.
What's your future goal with being intertwined with LinkedIn? What is your future with LinkedIn?
Well, we're doing a few things there. So, besides helping agencies and brands kind of um, come to fruition on LinkedIn, um, what we're also doing right now is we're also building a media company, and this is kind of just under wraps still, and just kind of just starting to come out of the shadows. But we've definitely executed a number of really interesting partnerships, and so there will be a lot more to come this next year. So
Good luck. And like venture capital, like tell me about, like, is it worth it, or like, and if you can't get the money, like how would you like get Like, would you get loans? Like, how would you do it if you were had to go back? If you had to go back and do it the right way, or whether it was right or wrong, or go back and fix some errors, what would you have done different?
I mean, definitely. I think if you're able to raise capital, that's a huge accelerant on anything that you're able to do. However, it's a long and arduous process, and for most people, it ends in, it doesn't end well, and it ends up being a waste of time. I would say you're much better off spending your time on hacking your first couple of clients. Basically like finding a way, talking to your uncle, to do some stuff for them so you could put together a case study. Find a few clients, like just hack them together any which way possible in the beginning, so you can start to build some data, so you can start to learn yourself. And if all goes well, maybe put a little bit of money in your pocket. But basically, it's about hacking those first couple of clients together and making sure you're using that competitive edge to figure out a way to just go from 0 to 1, like whatever it takes, right? So it's like Ocean's 11. It's like, they're trying to rob this casino, but look at how complex and difficult and deep that road to robbing that casino goes. Like, they're doing all kinds of things in all kinds of unimaginative ways, right? So that it's really kind of that type of mindset, and kind of like, I know what the goal is, and I will move these, whatever mountains it takes to make sure that I get my first 1, 2, 3 clients. And if you're able to do that, just switch on that 0 to 1, you're in a really, really, really good position to be able to, like, continue this business and actually make it successful.
Well said, like I I appreciate that because I've made it like to reflect off myself. I've made 1 or 2 clients. I've had over like 10,000 hours worth of footage, but now that I'm switching my tactics, it's like it. So yeah, so thank you for that good, solid advice, and more advice for the audience that you have to give about LinkedIn. How would you recommend or tell them that they should maneuver when they're advertising or they're promoting?
Yeah, definitely. I would say that, first of all, content is definitely still king. So, and it's really like making sure that you have a consistent content, strategy and schedule, number one and number two, because algorithmically LinkedIn really likes that. They really like your activity on there. They really like to, see you, being active on LinkedIn, right? So, that's all tied to your score. It's called your SSI score. It's your social selling index, which is a score that LinkedIn assigns to every profile, which is actually based on those 4 pillars of activity. So it starts with that. And then from there, we actually have a tool, called the Organic Post Booster. And what it does is it acts like, um, a paid or sponsored ad, but doesn't say paid or sponsored. And what it does is it essentially brings reach and virality to our content. That in turn solves awareness for the brand. And as a result, different things happen. Like, you have an increased follower count. You have lots of eyeballs on your brand, and basically what we call LinkedIn SEO. So making sure that we show up on the top of all of the searches, on LinkedIn, whether that's a search from a recruiter or someone looking for services, but we make sure that we show up on the top of that search. And so all that is done, right, through this tool called the Organic Post Booster. And again, what it does is it solves distribution for LinkedIn content. So that first and foremost is the most important thing for brands, because most brands, well, look, depending on where you are, some brands have the resources and abilities to, pay for paid ads, and they're able to do that. And there's a certain look and feel to that. For others who aren't able to afford that, and want to grow more organically, then this is probably the best way for them to be able to use a tool like we have, and just be able to go and schedule the boosts whenever they want to publish their content, and grow that way. That's kind of the first piece, is you need to solve that awareness piece for the brand. And if you're able to do that over time, if you get your content right, what that means is you'll solve trust in your brand as well, right? So at that point, if you can do that, if you can achieve that, and then you start to do, LinkedIn outreach, reaching out to folks to see if they're interested in what you're doing, you'll see that you'll get a 2 to 3 times higher response rate, just by making sure that your content is seen. Again, by organically post boosting it. Uh,
What about the budget? How much can, like, cuz that's I kind of like mess with LinkedIn on and off, and I wanted to know, like, what is a good budget to get succeed all those elements that you just was talking about, like be on SEO optimization and be seen by through SSI and stuff of that nature.
Yeah, good question. So with our tool, we've been able to hit 48 million impressions on LinkedIn before. So that's the equivalent of about $4 million in ad spend. And we did that for 50 bucks. So there's a really big difference, in kind of like organic boosting, what we do, versus paid ads. Um, so if there's a budget of, say, a few $100s to a few $1,000, that's going to be enough, to be able to get you, organically seen, by a lot more eyeballs, for sure.
And how do you get in touch with the company that would help with the organic over the traditional ad spend?
Well, as far as I know, we're the only ones that offer this currently. So you can get in touch with me, or any one of our colleagues. I'm happy to help.
Okay. And where do you see, your future with the business that you have built with LinkedIn? Like, how do you feel that, like, I know where you said you were going to go with LinkedIn, so where do you think that you might do to help someone in the future grow with LinkedIn, on top of like ways to innovate and use AI? Because you were telling me about the AI system through one of the restaurants. Tell me about that.
Definitely. So, I mean, what we're really doing right now is we're really like helping enterprise companies, and agencies typically, navigate LinkedIn. Um, and it's really helping them kind of solve this go to market motion with LinkedIn, because it's one of the first, things that all brands will do, will need to do, when kind of spinning up their thing, because in order to, raise the money, in order to exit your business, oftentimes, the very first thing they're going to do is they're going to look up information on that founder. They're going to want to understand who they are and what they're doing, especially in a from the business sense and business perspective. So that means LinkedIn. So they're going to come into LinkedIn, they're going to look at who you are, and they're going to try to like make their decisions based on what they see there. And so that's really the importance and the power of LinkedIn, right? And so what we're able to do is we're able to take that, and take that brand and make sure that not only that is the message crisp and clean, but it stays prevalent and in front of all of those eyeballs on a consistent basis. And then we're able to then use that awareness to do lead generation, to talk to investors, to kind of do all of those extra things that are going to be helpful for any brand that's really kind of trying to go to market, right? So we use AI in a lot of different ways. One way that we use AI right now, and some people hate it, some people love it, but we have a way to do, for example, what we call connection request campaigns. So we can have an AI basically come on and say, for example, it can come to your profile, it can view your LinkedIn profile. It can wait a few days and then like one of your posts. And then it can wait a few days and then endorse your skill. And then it can send you a connection request. And then it can wait another day and then send you a message and say, hey, Kimberly, awesome. Thank you so much for accepting my connection request. Welcome to my network. Let me know if you ever want to powwow. And then we'll also send a email campaign. So that could be one or multiple messages on LinkedIn as well to kind of follow up with that LinkedIn campaign. So what we're doing essentially is we're solving that brand awareness on LinkedIn. That's where all those important eyeballs are today, right? And then we have that system for to automate lead generation across LinkedIn plus email for that brand. And that is the basic system that we recommend for brands to employ when trying to go to market.
What do you see yourself getting out of this, like in general? Like how what are the people going to get out of this? And this is the last question. What do you feel that the people is going to get out of this, and how is how do you feel about what you do? What makes your brand successful?
Well, I think it's kind of like being in the right place at the right time, right? So I think that, suddenly today, again, LinkedIn has just kind of become this core tenet of everything we want to do professionally. Just this year alone, I think there was a record broken in the month of January in the number of signups for LinkedIn. And so that's probably attributed to, the job market and what AI is doing out there. And so, there's a lot of people that are, starting their own businesses. They see an angle, they see a gap. They want to be their own boss. And so if that's the path that they decide to take, then LinkedIn is basically the engine to do that, right? And so what we're able to do is help them turn that on in a way that, again, like no marketing agency or comms agency can do.
How can people reach you?
The easiest way is on LinkedIn. Evan Chi at Regenesis on LinkedIn.
Okay. Stay on the line. Thank you, everyone, for joining my show today. Y'all take care. Be safe, and I will see you guys another time. Bye.